Sometimes the moves that change everything don't come with warning sirens. They don't announce themselves with breaking news alerts or emergency broadcasts. Sometimes the decisions that flip the entire global chessboard happen in quiet conference rooms behind closed doors when the world's attention is looking somewhere else entirely. Sometimes the masterstrokes that leave superpower speechless happen not with bombs or bullets, but with the kind of strategic brilliance that makes your opponent realize they've been playing checkers while you've been playing chess all along. That's exactly what happened when India pulled off the most audacious geopolitical move of the 21st century. One decision, one masterstroke, one moment that made Washington realize they had completely underestimated the quiet giant they thought they understood. See, most people think power is about making noise. They think it's about threats and ultimatums, about flexing military muscle and economic sanctions. But real power? Real power is about making moves so smooth, so calculated, so perfectly timed that your opponent doesn't even realize they've been outmaneuvered until the game is already over. That masterstroke wasn't just brilliant, it was beautiful. The kind of strategic poetry that military academies will study for generations. The kind of diplomatic chess that makes other nations wonder how they missed something so obvious, yet so impossible to counter. For decades, the United States had gotten comfortable with a simple formula. America makes the rules, America enforces the rules, and everyone else follows the rules. It worked in Europe, it worked in the Middle East, it worked across Latin America and Africa. The playbook was predictable. Economic pressure here, military presence there, diplomatic isolation when necessary, and regime change when all else failed. But that masterstroke threw the entire American playbook out the window and forced Washington to confront a terrifying reality. They were no longer the only ones writing the rules of the global game. Picture the scene in the Pentagon that morning. Intelligence briefings that had been routine for years suddenly became emergency sessions. Analysts who thought they had India found themselves staring at reports that made no sense according to everything they thought they knew. Because that masterstroke didn't just surprise them. It revealed how little they actually understood about the nation they had been trying to manage for so long. The shockwaves hit Washington like a tsunami. Not just because of what India did, but because of how India did it. No dramatic announcements, no threatening speeches, no chest beating or saber rattling. Just pure calculated strategic brilliance executed with the kind of precision that leaves your opponent scrambling to understand what just happened while you're already 3 moves ahead. Let me break this down for you. America had been playing the same game for so long, they forgot that other players might be learning different rules. They assumed that because they had the biggest military budget, the most advanced technology, the largest economy, everyone else would always be playing catch-up. But that masterstroke proved something Washington never wanted to admit, that intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking can sometimes outmaneuver raw power. What made this move so devastating wasn't just its immediate impact. It was the way it exposed every assumption America had been making about the global order. For years, U.S. policymakers had been operating on the belief that they could control India's choices through a combination of carrots and sticks. Economic incentives here, diplomatic pressure there, military partnerships when convenient, and subtle threats when necessary. But that masterstroke revealed that India had been playing a completely different game the entire time. While America was focused on controlling India's moves, India was quietly building the infrastructure to make America's control irrelevant. While Washington was thinking in terms of bilateral relationships, India was constructing a multilateral reality that made American dominance obsolete. The genius of that masterstroke was its timing. It didn't come during a crisis when everyone was watching. It didn't come as a reaction to American pressure or as a response to some international emergency. It came precisely when America was most confident, most comfortable, most certain that they had the global situation under control. That's when India struck, not with aggression, but with such brilliant strategic thinking that it left American policymakers wondering how they had been so blind to what was building right in front of them. Think about it from Washington's perspective. For decades, they had viewed India as a useful partner, but never as an equal player. India was the country they could rely on to provide skilled workers, to buy American weapons, to serve as a counterweight to China when convenient, but always within the framework of American global leadership. India was supposed to be grateful for American attention, appreciative of American investment, and ultimately responsive to American interests. But that masterstroke shattered that entire framework. It forced Washington to confront the reality that India had never accepted the role America had assigned to it. While American leaders were making plans that included India as a junior partner, India was making plans that made American leadership unnecessary. The shock in Washington wasn't just about losing control. It was about realizing they had never had the control they thought they had. That masterstroke revealed that India had been operating with a level of strategic independence that American intelligence had completely missed. It showed that while America was focused on managing India's behavior, India was busy creating alternatives to American management. What made this particularly devastating for American prestige was how effortless India made it look. No dramatic confrontations, no public humiliation, no need to prove anything to anyone. Just smooth, confident execution of a strategy that had been years in the making. It was the kind of move that made other nations around the world take notice and wonder, if India can do this, what does that mean for the rest of us? The masterstroke didn't just change India's position in the global order, it changed how every other nation calculated their own relationships with America. Because if India could outmaneuver the world's only superpower with such elegance, it meant the superpower wasn't as super as everyone had assumed. Here's what really rattled Washington. The move came with no malice, no hostility, no attempt to embarrass or humiliate America. It was just pure strategic excellence, executed by a nation that had grown tired of playing by rules written by others. India didn't declare war on American leadership. It simply made American leadership irrelevant to India's success. The beauty of that masterstroke was in its completeness. It wasn't just about one policy area or one relationship. It was a comprehensive reimagining of how a major power operates in the modern world. While America had been perfecting the art of imposing its will on others, India had been perfecting the art of making others' will irrelevant to its own success. That's why it shocked Washington so profoundly. American leaders suddenly found themselves in the unfamiliar position of having to react to someone else's initiative, rather than setting the agenda themselves. They discovered that their traditional tools of influence, economic pressure, diplomatic isolation, military intimidation, were suddenly ineffective against a nation that had built alternative systems for everything. The masterstroke revealed that India had been preparing for this moment for years, maybe decades. Every trade agreement, every technological partnership, every diplomatic relationship had been building toward this single moment when India could demonstrate its complete strategic independence from American oversight. And the most shocking part, India did it all while maintaining friendly relations with America. No bridges burned, no relationships destroyed, no unnecessary drama. Just the quiet execution of a strategy so brilliant that even America's competitors stopped to applaud the sheer audacity and intelligence of the move. That masterstroke didn't just change the game between India and America. It changed the game for everyone. Because once the world saw that American dominance could be outmaneuvered through intelligence and patience rather than confrontation and conflict, every calculation changed. The shockwaves are still rippling through Washington today, not because India became America's enemy, but because India proved that America's friendship was optional, not necessary for a great nation's success. And that realization has changed everything.